By 12 years after the Battle of Yavin, the Empire had been reduced to a fraction of its former size and glory. Years of fracturing followed by the reborn Emperor's Operation Shadowhand had left the Empire with a shrunken, though still considerable military force, and no real united leadership to speak of. The work of Natassi Dalla began to unify the disparate groups of the Deep Core, but it wasn't until her defeat at Yavin IV that a new leader would emerge in the form of Thrawn's former protege, Gilad Pellaeon, to unify the warlords beyond the core as well, and deliver the Empire one of its first lasting military victories in years during today's subject, the Orinda Campaign. The Third Battle of Orinda, the final battle of this campaign, was the culmination of months of preparation for Pellaeon and added fuel to years of doctrinal debate within the New Republic military. For his part, Pellaeon had spent the first few months in command of the Imperial forces of the core, taking stock of a multitude of hidden caches of Imperial weapons and ships secreted away by various warlords, hoping to one-up their rivals. In this process, Pellaeon discovered two lost star dreadnoughts, the Megador and the Dominion, abandoned but intact at shipyards formerly belonging to warlord Blitzer Harsk. With his newly bolstered military forces, he set about diplomatically unifying as many of the rim-based warlord factions as he could, including the remains of Artus Kane's now leaderless Pentastar alignment, which became the new core of Imperial territory for decades to come. He was also able to convince the Moffs that with the combination of the Dominion, the Megador, and the Reaper, Kane's Executor-class former flagship, which Pellaeon took as his own, he would be able to defend a unified empire, and was made the official supreme commander of the Imperial fleet. Pellaeon had a clear advantage over his predecessors as leader of the Imperial forces. He was more pragmatic and was not aiming to destroy the New Republic in a misguided bid to restore the original Empire. He understood that the Empire had long since lost its ability to win a prolonged offensive against the burgeoning galactic power, but he did believe that an appropriately planned strike, if successful, could dissuade the New Republic from advancing further. One important planet along the Intrala trade route from the core to the Imperial holdings of the North stood out as a possible target to reassert Imperial control, the trade world of Orinda. Orinda had already served as the seat of the Imperial ruling council for a time when Palpatine's former advisor, Ars Dangor, moved it there immediately after Coruscant's fall, though the planet was lost in the aftermath of Thrawn's defeat in the year 9 ABY. It was again reclaimed during Operation Shadowhand, and lost under Karnor Jax's Crimson Empire, around 2 years before Pellaeon's bid to retake it. Pellaeon knew his biggest advantage in the campaign would be the secrecy surrounding his remaining dreadnoughts. Reaper was public knowledge, but Pellaeon kept Imperial intelligence alert for any sign the New Republic might know about Dominion and Megador. He began by stationing Megador at the planet Agamar to defend Imperial territory while he went on the offensive, then took Reaper and supporting forces to connect with the highly decorated commander of the elite 181st Fighter Wing, Turr Phennir at Borosk. From there, the two quickly struck Orinda and 6 deeper systems up to the planet Lona, telling the New Republic that no further moves would be made if they were left alone at this point. Given Imperial history, and especially because the attack had occurred along a route to the core, the New Republic feared further aggressive moves and sent Wedge Antilles to command the recapture of the planet aboard the Super Star Destroyer Lucenkia, which had itself been captured by the Empire years ago in the Bacta War, but only recently pressed back into service, after years of functioning as a medical research facility. There had been an ongoing debate about the efficacy of larger dreadnoughts compared to smaller capital ships and fighter support within the New Republic for years, and the results of the Orinda campaign would play heavily into that debate. While Lucenkia had been involved in some skirmishes under New Republic control for up to a year at this point, this would be the first real test of New Republic dreadnoughts against Imperial dreadnoughts. What followed was a series of impressive engagements between the Reaper and Lucenkia. Images and holo feeds of the two going at it became a public spectacle across the New Republic and Empire, though the results were less encouraging to New Republic Command, who sent Admiral Areta Bell and presumably the first Endurance-class fleet carrier, itself named Endurance, along with its complement of E-Wing fighters to support Antilles. As Pellaeon fell back for his carefully planned trap at Orinda itself, Bell was under significant military and political pressure to prove the starfighter-focused side of the doctrinal debate a success, especially while serving next to ace pilot Wedge Antilles. The Third Battle of Orinda began with a brawl between the Lucenkia and Reaper, with Bell waiting to launch her E-Wings despite requests from Antilles to do so as soon as possible. The E-Wings at this point had both a history of malfunctioning and were best used in pinpoint attacks rather than in capital assaults like this, which does raise the question of why, for such an important battle to those who were in favor of the New Republic remaining on the smaller side of the Dreadnought fighter debate, a better assortment of fighters and bombers hadn't been used instead. Bell was hoping to wait for a breach in the Reaper's defenses from Lusancia and other ships, allowing an opportunity for the E-Wings to strike. Unfortunately, she had waited too long. Pellaeon was ready to spring his trap. 6 interdictors jumped in to prevent the New Republic escape. With the Lusancia locked into place, the third of Pellaeon's dreadnoughts, Dominion, under the command of Admiral Terran Rogaris, joined the fight. There is no official class for the Dominion and very little in terms of specific information, but for the purposes of this video, I have represented it as a Bellator class. The combined fire of the Reaper and Dominion quickly destroyed the Endurance, which had still not launched its fighters, and Lusancia was seemingly not far behind before Rogue Squadron managed to open the interdiction field enough for the remaining New Republic forces to get through and escape. While the primary focus of the battle Orinda is on the Reaper, Lusancia, and Endurance, the official art has several other distinct ships taking part in the battle on both sides. This includes several Star Destroyers and smaller frigates, which may be anti-fighter Lancer frigates for the Imperials, at least 6 Star Destroyers, and also at least 1 MC-80B for the New Republic, an assault frigate, and a variety of other less distinct ship shapes, which are likely other members of the new class fleet modernization project, like a probably Nebula-class Star Destroyer towards the top, or possibly Republic-class Star Destroyer. I have included several of these in the video, though not all. There's a lot of interpretation there. It's just worth noting that while a lot of battles tend to have specific focuses on certain ships, many battles primarily set up in source books like this one, which is from the Essential Guide to Warfare, allow for quite a bit of interpretation and scale to help it fit with the variety of ways scale is portrayed in different specific examples of narrative and Star Wars storytelling. The Dark Empire comics, for example, have gigantic fleets at different planets, while even major engagements in certain novels tend to have much smaller fleets going at it. The aftermath of this battle had major implications for both the Republic and Empire. On the one hand, it had secured Imperial territory and made the New Republic have to think twice before making further advances. But on the other, it had succeeded maybe too well. The Moffs quickly ordered Pellaeon to go back on the offensive against his better judgment, resulting in the quick loss of the Reaper over Selenon. While border skirmishes would always be a fact of life, it did result in nearly 4 years of relative stability despite the loss of the Reaper, while Pellaeon and the Moffs attempted to re-establish the Imperial state in its remaining territory. In the New Republic, the Battle of Orinda opened the possibility for further development of their own battlecruisers and dreadnoughts, which had been floated on and off as an idea since Endor. Primary focus up to this point had always been on developing smaller capital ships than what the Empire typically used, with the MC-80B, MC-90, Republic, Nebula, and Endurance classes all being smaller than the Imperial-class Star Destroyer. But following this period, we start to see the emergence of more and more ships exceeding the size of the Star Destroyer, most notably the Viscount-class Star Defender, but also other battlecruisers like the Mediator, the Strident, and more into the Yuzan Vong period and beyond. Starfighters had always served the New Republic well in the years leading up to this point, and they would continue to play a major role in the New Republic, but they were no longer seen as the only game in town. That's going to do it for today's campaign breakdown. This is definitely a bit later than my usual campaign videos I've covered so far, with the Hunt for Zinj being the next scheduled one there. But having already made the Battle of Orinda standalone animation, it made more sense to do the battle and the campaign together, rather than try to split them off, seeing as there's not really any information about other battles within the campaign, so it would have been basically redoing the same thing later. Either way, I hope you've enjoyed this latest breakdown and animation. Remember to leave a like and subscribe if you did and want to see more. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.